Andy Dalton was released by the Bengals this morning, $17.7 million off their cap, and now a free agent, free to sign wherever he wishes. So let's just get right to it. Should the New England Patriots look at signing him to be their quarterback in 2020?
I would sign him if I were the Patriots, but I would sign him to like a 1-year deal. Prove yourself, because in all honesty, we don't know how good Andy Dalton can be because he has been on such a bad team for so long. He's had nothing. He's been there by himself. He's had Chad Ochocinco. Okay, fine. But outside of that, really, what have they had in the 9 years he was there?
Just AJ Green, pretty much. Other than that, though,
Green's another one. What have they really had? So he's been in a very poor organization to play for. He hasn't really had an opportunity. If you throw him in New England, where the standards are higher than you can go, maybe not this season, but the next few seasons as they rebuild. But their coaching is there, the mentality's there. He's going to be in such a different environment that he's never been in. It's very strict. It's very, we've seen what they can do. I think sure, why not? You have nothing to lose. Sign him on a 1-year deal and see what happens. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Move on. I don't see why they wouldn't do it unless Bill really sees something in this Stidham guy. I don't know anything about him. I don't know if you know too much about him. I don't know how good he is, how bad he is. I have no idea.
Yeah, no idea. He's a question mark, and he's going to be a project. However, I also read a couple things. I'm a little higher on Jarrett Stidham than I was a few weeks ago because I had read that if he was in this draft class this year, he would have been a first-round pick. And if he was in the draft class a couple years ago, I think it was the 2016 draft or I can't remember exactly which year it was. But there's 2 drafts in the last 5 years that I read that if he was in the 2 of those drafts, he would have been a first-round pick. So I'm a little bit higher on him now. Good. Yeah, knowing that, I'm kind of like, okay, well, the kid's obviously got some talent. I watched him in the preseason last year, and I saw some things I liked, but it's hard to assess a young quarterback in the preseason because he's coming in for quarters 2, 3, and 4, and normally that's when the second and third stringers are in. So you're not really playing, against the Jalen Ramseys. You're not really throwing to the Antonio Browns or the Rob Gronkowskis, and you're not facing, the Khalil Macks or the Aaron Donald. So it's kind of hard, I think, to assess a young quarterback. But it's nice to know that he at least has some talent where if he was in a couple of the other draft classes, he might have been a first, maybe early second-round pick. So that kind of made me a little more optimistic about the future of Jarrett Stidham, especially under Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels. But when it comes to Andy Dalton, only 6 quarterbacks in the NFL since 2011 have passed for 30,000 yards, 200 passing touchdowns, and have 70 wins. Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan, and Andy Dalton is actually the 6th. And that's a pretty elite list of players and quarterbacks to be a part of. And especially when you look at Drew Brees, who has played for Sean Payton and for the New Orleans Saints and has benefited a lot from playing for that organization. Tom Brady playing in New England with Bill Belichick and the players he has mentioned. Ben Roethlisberger too. Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers, former MVPs. I mean, for Andy Dalton to be among that list, that's pretty elite. And obviously he's a good quarterback. He has shown at times, he's been to the playoffs. He's won the AFC North against teams like Baltimore, like Pittsburgh. So he has talent. If I'm New England, though, I just stand pat with what I got this year, and I just roll into the season with Brian Hoyer and Jarrett Stidham. I just think, why waste a year of Andy Dalton when you have no intention of signing him? I mean, he could come there and build his value and have a good season, but if Bill Belichick has a long-term plan, and maybe if Jarrett Stidham doesn't work out, he's hoping that he either has the long-term answer in Jarrett Stidham or he doesn't have the long-term answer in Jarrett Stidham, and then he can go into next year's draft with Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields and a couple of the other guys who are supposed to go first round and select one of those guys in the first round next year to be the long-term answer at quarterback for New England. I just think Bill Belichick, if he's as smart as I think he is and as great of a coach as we all know he is, I would pass on the opportunity to sign Andy Dalton and Cam Newton. And it's not that I don't think those guys are good quarterbacks. It's not that I don't think those guys can be long-term answers for a franchise or lead a franchise to the playoffs and have success. I just think if I'm Bill Belichick, I just go with Stidham because I think you need that answer, because in case you release him in a couple of years and you never gave him that chance and he goes somewhere else and has success, you could always say to yourself, well, what if I had kept that guy and had him here? What could we have done? And I just think, some people might say, well, what about Jimmy Garoppolo? Well, you still had Tom Brady playing at a high level up until he just left a few months ago. So I mean, that's a little different to me. Now I would at least get that answer out of Jarrett Stidham. Be like, look, you can either be the long-term guy here, you win 9 or 10 games, we go to the playoffs, maybe squeak out a playoff win here and there. I can build something around you and build off of you and around you for this franchise like I did for Tom. But, I mean, I think you at least need that answer so you can go into next year's draft or the draft after that and get that long-term franchise quarterback if you have to. And I think Andy Dalton might just prevent you from doing that because Andy Dalton's in his early 30s, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
Andy Dalton is, let me look this up really quick. Andy Dalton's 32 years old. So how much longer is he going to play in the NFL? I mean, he's going to be 33 at the start of next season. What's he got, 4 or 5 years left? I just don't see Bill Belichick doing that personally. I don't think he's going to sign Cam. I don't think he's going to sign Andy Dalton. Now, once I end this podcast and we're done here today, that could all be changed. Maybe we got a notification half an hour saying that Andy Dalton's in New England on a one-term deal. They also only have $1.2 million in cap space. So I think that's going to make it very difficult to come to some type of an agreement with Andy Dalton, unless he's willing to play for the league minimum for 1 year to build his value because the Bengals still owe him $17.5 million.
Yeah.
But I would go with Jarrett Stidham. That would be my take. I would roll, if I'm New England, Jarrett Stidham's my guy. He sat behind Tom Brady for a year. He saw the way Tom prepared every day for game day, saw the way he went about his business, saw how he interacted with his teammate and his leadership skills. I would go with Stidham and at least get that answer that, yeah, he's the guy, or no, I need to think about someone else in the draft next year, or you go after next year's big free agent ticket at quarterback. That would be what I would do if I were the Patriots.